Welcome to another episode of Erik Wait Whiskey Studies, and in this video I'm going to talk about Glenfiddich Distillery and review the Glenfiddich 12-year-old Single Malt Scotch Whisky. So this video is part 4 of a series I'm doing in studying for the Certified Whiskey Specialist with the Council of Whiskey Masters. In this video I'm going to cover the history, production, the core range, and do a review of this 12-year-old. Glenfiddich is a Speyside single malt whiskey distillery in the Scottish borough of Dufftown in Moray. Glenfiddich means Valley of the Deer in Scottish Gaelic, which is reflected in Glenfiddich's stag logo. Glenfiddich Distillery was founded in 1886 by William Grant in Dufftown, Scotland, in the glen of the River Fiddick. At age 27, William Grant started as a clerk at the Mortlach Distillery, working his way up to manager. Over the 20 years he worked there, he put money aside until he eventually could buy second-hand patched distilling equipment for £100 from the nearby Cardew Distillery. He and his wife Elizabeth had 9 children. The Glenfiddich single malt whiskey first ran from the stills on Christmas Day, 1887. In 1892, William Grant also founded Balvenie Distillery. He remained active in the company until his death in 1923 at the age of 83. In 1923, while Prohibition was at its peak, William Grant's grandson, Grant Gordon, joined the family firm and surprised everyone by increasing the level of production at the distillery. In 1933, when Prohibition was repealed, Glenfiddich was one of only 6 Scottish distilleries still operating, and thanks to Gordon's savvy business move, the distillery was ready to meet a new surge in demand for fine aged single malt. Glenfiddich profited greatly thanks to this smart gamble. In 1953, Charles Grant Gordon, William Grant's great-grandson, became the director of Glenfiddich. In 1957, Charles Gordon insisted on having coppersmiths at the distillery to build and maintain distinctive stills. In 1961, Glenfiddich's distinctive 3-sided bottle was introduced. The design was created by Hans Schlegel and has since become iconic. This move has been acclaimed as a great marketing technique, quite literally setting Glenfiddich apart from the other bottles on the shelf. This same year, Glenfiddich released their single malt as an official bottling for the first time, defying critics who said that such a venture would not be successful. The sales success allowed Glenfiddich to really build themselves into a brand, virtually creating the idea of the single malt range. In 1963, Sandy Grant Gordon, great-grandson of William Grant, made Glenfiddich the first single malt to be promoted outside of Scotland. Following difficult times in the 1960s and 1970s, many small independent distillers were bought up or went out of business. In order to survive, William Grant and Sons expanded their production of the drink and introduced advertising campaigns and a visitor center. Later, William Grant & Sons was one of the first distilleries to package its bottles in tubes and gift tins, as well as recognizing the importance of the duty-free market for spirits. This marketing strategy was successful, and Glenfiddich has since become the world's best-selling single malt. It is sold in 180 countries and accounts for about 35% of single malt sales. In 1998, Glenfiddich introduced the Solera vat for the 15-year-old single malt. Since 2002, Glenfiddich has had an Artist-in-Residence program with a total budget of £130,000, allowing artists to stay and work in the distillery each year. In 2019, there were 8 artists-in-residence, and in 2021, there were 6 artists-in-residence. In 2010, extreme snow caused the warehouse roof to collapse. The warehousemen worked in -19 Celsius temperatures to save all of the casks. As a tribute, the master blender blended surviving casks to create the Snow Phoenix. In 2011, Glenfiddich auctioned a 55-year-old single malt, the most expensive single malt, to honor Jant Sheed Roberts, the last grandchild of William Grant. Only 11 bottles are released worldwide, and each were auctioned for charity. Glenfiddich is currently managed by the 5th generation of William Grant's descendants. The 35-hectare site contains a cooperage, coppersmith, bottling lines, a vast warehousing complex, and 2 stillhouses with 31 distinctively shaped swan neck copper pot stills. These stills are smaller than those now in use at most other major distilleries. All stills are handmade, and Glenfiddich employs a team of craftsmen and coppersmiths to maintain them. These stills have a capacity of around 13 million liters of spirit per year. The water source for Glenfiddich whiskey is the Robbie Dew Springs nearby to the distillery. Once the spirit has matured, the casks are emptied and the whiskey is reduced to bottling strength with pure Robbie Dew spring water. Glenfiddich has a bottling hall on site along with a large bottling plant in Bellshill. The Glenfiddich core range includes the Glenfiddich 21-year-old bourbon and rum cask finish, bottled at 40% alcohol by volume, sells for about $210. The Glenfiddich 18-year-old bourbon and Olorroso sherry cask, bottled at 43% alcohol by volume, sells for about $110. The Glenfiddich 15-year-old Solera single malt, bottled at 40% alcohol by volume, sells for $59. And I am reviewing the Glenfiddich 12-year-old bourbon and Olorroso sherry cask, bottled at 40% alcohol by volume, sells for about $33. So at 40% alcohol by volume, it doesn't have a large nose. Straight up, this is a whiskey for someone who is new to whiskey, someone who's just getting started. If you're, a whiskey aficionado, if you're a big whiskey fan, you have a collection, maybe something like this, this is not a whiskey geared for you. This is for the newbie, the more entry-level whiskey, under 35 bucks, 40 ABV, not overly complex, not gonna blow you away. Or if you just need a whiskey that'll make a really good cocktail. This has a similar play to, I would say, Jameson's well-known bottle, the largest selling whiskey in the world. Except for this has a heavier malty character. But I get a lemon and lime there, some floral notes. The maltiness there does pop a little bit. Loads of vanilla, some baking spices. Maybe just a wee whiff of the sherry notes, but you're not getting those, dried black fruit notes. It's just a slight whiff of some dried fruit on the palate. As you might expect, for someone who is accustomed to drinking whiskey, 40% comes across rather mild. However, if someone's a beer drinker or someone's a wine drinker and they're not used to whiskey, this is really going to blow them away. This is going to seem really, really intense and really high in alcohol. But as I said, if you're used to drinking higher ABV whiskeys, this is going to come across rather tame, really silky, smooth. It has sort of a slight oily, round mouthfeel. Same on the palate I got on the nose. I get the lemon and lime. There's a maltiness on the back end. I get some vanilla, light baking spices. Just a whiff, just a bare touch of the sherry cask. Low to moderate finish. It's an okay whiskey. If you put a little water on it, if you put some ice on it, it pretty much gets drowned really, 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 really easy. Now, I've had some 40 ABV whiskeys that do well on ice or a little water. This one, it's quickly drowned out. However, it's sort of a whiskey that would be a really good base to build upon to make a really nice cocktail. And I think that's really the play here for people who want to take in other ingredients and build their own profile in a drink, namely in a cocktail. So would I recommend it? That's what you're looking for in a whiskey. If you're either new or you're looking to build a cocktail, I would say this is an excellent alternative to Jameson, although the Jameson's probably about $10 less, but this has a real nice malty character to it on the back end. What would I give it in terms of a score? I'm going to go a solid 84 points. 84 points, but keep in context is really whether you buy it or not has to do with what you're going to do with this whiskey. Alrighty. If you like watching my videos, do not yet subscribe. Ask you to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified when I go live. And live after this, we will cover Glenfiddich all over again. We'll have a 10-question quiz, and I'll talk about some other bottlings. Until next time, cheers. Hey, don't forget to subscribe and check out these other whiskey videos.